Is my relationship wrong? Girl, those comments are kind of a mess. Just keep being friends with him the exact same way you were up until now. As a young woman in this world, and since men in their 20s going for teenagers is a common thing, I'd just advise you to keep that in a tiny corner of your mind. Which means, be open about this relationship and what happens within it with your parents and other people around you. Keep them informed and in the know. They'll be there to protect you if they spot something you don't because of your young age or because of your position. And it also means do not dismiss signs if a sign that something's wrong ever shows up. Do not convince yourself you're overthinking it and being dramatic if the situation arises. As someone else said, trust your gut. It usually knows. If it feels healthy and doesn't cross the friendship boundary, don't worry too much about it. A lot of this might be how you're communicating it. If you're just friends, then terms like, my relationship, is going to make everyone think something totally different. And then same with the, safe and taken care of, usually your friend would not be referred to in that way. If you want to be his friend, and only his friend, it shouldn't be a problem. But please know what grooming is and what it looks like. Honestly, I would have never hung out with a 16 years old as a 22-year-old. It's weird and we are nowhere close to being on the same maturity level. Please, please, please tread lightly. He makes me feel safe and taken care of, just rings so many alarm bells for me. Well, a college-aged man getting close to a high school-aged girl is going to cause most people to assume he has sexual motives in mind. That isn't necessarily the case though all the time. Sometimes a guy can have grown up with sisters and just feels comfortable having friendly relationships with women. They could also be gay and simply choose not to openly advertise it. It's hard to guess what his true motives are. But if he is ultimately trying to pursue a sexual relationship with you, then it would be illegal in most states and countries that have an 18-year-old age of majority. Your friendship is a friendship from what you've told us. I think they are concerned he's trying to make it more than that. The safe and taken care of bit throws me off though. Be careful, BC. I don't talk about any of my friends like this, lol. Mom and high school worker here. Part of you problem is perspective. You feel like an adult but you are not. And you're playing with fire hanging out with him outside of work. Enjoy his company at work. Distance yourself from him otherwise. If you're working and have school, hanging out with him may isolate you from your peers. If you're hiding any part of your hanging out with him from friends and family, you know it's not right already. I would suggest that being friends at work is fine. But remember, when you're outside of work, why is a 22-year-old man hanging out with a high schooler? Probably because the other 22-year-olds think he's weird. As friends, no. If you start rubbing your bits together, it's going to end poorly for him. You've both been warned. Cops and jurors don't care if you're mature for your age, or how much you're in love. Dude is gonna become a registered sex offender if you guys get caught doing anything untoward. I think if you are work friends, that's okay. If it's anything beyond that, it's inappropriate on his part. Number 22. Why, oh, guy should be hanging out with someone in high school? No matter his motives, it just looks predatory. Your age difference may not seem that big to you, but it's a huge difference at this point in your lives. I think you will look back on this differently than you might be seeing it in this moment. Not wrong or weird in any way. I, male, worked at a bookstore when I was 22. I was friends with people from 16 to 60 who worked there. That was one of the things I loved about working at a bookstore. The variety of people you meet there. It's a unique grouping of people and you do tend to share interests and you get to be friends with all sorts of people. Enjoy your time there and the friends you make there. Don't let others try and dictate your life. How long have you known him and how? Without giving too much detail. Did you guys meet? I suppose I'm just trying to understand the dynamic a bit better. There are certainly situations where I believe this kind of friendship is okay and nothing predatory is going on. But nobody here would be able to tell you that because we just don't have enough insight into your relationship and this guy. The problem is that there are also situations where it is predatory and the result of what can happen to you if it's one of those situations is awful. So it's great that you're being careful and thinking about it. I'm also glad to hear you're not entertaining anything more than friendship because that would not go well. Your best bet would be leaning on people who know both of you well and are his age or older. Not your age. Sorry. For example, if your parents are familiar with your friendship and don't have an issue with it, then it's probably fine. I know I would certainly have very close eyes on any 22-year-olds who are hanging out with my daughter if she were your age. I guess I would just want to understand why they aren't hanging out with other adults. And I'd be afraid of the lopsided power dynamics and potential for things to go sideways. At the same time, my sisters-in-law are teenagers around your age, and I love hanging out with them. They're literally like family to me, so I can appreciate how a grown-ass man can still have fun hanging out with teenagers. It just really depends on the context and relationship dynamic. This is pretty difficult to tell. He very easily could be predatory and grooming you, but he also could just genuinely enjoy your company. When I, 23 meters, was a teenager, I used to hang out with my coworkers at the deli I worked at. One was over 30, and I'd regularly go over and play D&D and smoke weed with him and his friends. It never became an issue because none of them, male or female, tried to take advantage of me. At the end of the day, if you feel safe and comfortable, then that's fine. Also, I would definitely make sure your parents know, as they'll have a good understanding of the situation. There is no way a 22-year-old should be hanging around a 16-year-old just as friends. I wonder if the second you turn 18 he'll make advances. This feels very much like grooming. I wouldn't let my 16-year-old hang out after work with a 22-year-old. I was a very mature 16-year-old. Read the same books as most adults. Had a checking account. Saved money. Made good grades, etc. But every decent adult I knew never tried to be friends with me. Maybe give me some perspective, etc. But no. A 22-year-old should not be friends with a teen. As a teen, I didn't realize then what some of the things that were warning signs about predators are. You may feel like it's friendly, and you can really talk to him and he's just a sweet guy that listens. He's not. Sorry. Sounds like he's being a friend to you and you haven't indicated feeling like he has any ill intentions. So I would say don't worry about it. You know that you're not doing anything wrong. And that is what matters. Just make sure you set boundaries and stick with them. When I was 16, I had friends from work that were 20. I am a guy. We would hang out after work all the time. They were men and women. No one ever brought up sex even jokingly. I am sure it could be different for women in some ways, but not everything is about sex. As someone who has ended up in a lot of terrible situations because the nice person who helped me feel safe and taken care of ended up being the biggest threat, please be very careful. If his friendship is only available as a you and him thing and either of you are uncomfortable with you, him, and other friends closer to your age hanging out and becoming friends, that's a good indicator that this is probably an unhealthy relationship. Any friendship, or relationship, that isolates you from other people you care about is unhealthy. It is really good that you are seeking advice about the situation and don't let anyone make you feel guilty for wanting to understand people's reasons why. There is a big difference between thing bad and you should stop, and thing bad because X, Y, and Z. That way, you can learn to recognize potential issues in future relationships. That being said, all of us are susceptible to poor judgment, especially when we are very emotional about a particular topic or person. Getting outside perspectives can always be helpful for looking at things objectively if you feel you are caught up in emotions. But never take someone else's words as fact unless they give you reason to do so. And don't let anyone make your decisions for you. In the working world, it's normal to have work friends of various ages. However, outside of that, you have to be very careful. I'm not going to jump to conclusions about what kind of man Dan is or what he wants, because there is a chance he sees you more as a little sister. However, don't take his word for everything simply because he has more life experience or makes you feel comfortable and safe. Don't let him make decisions for you or change who you are as a person. And do not let him talk you into something you don't want to do. A lot of people here are super weird about just being friends with someone with an age gap. I myself used to friends with some older coworkers and it had never once felt predatory or weird. I've even hung out with some outside of work. Once again, no weirdness involved. Everyone's situation is different, and if your gut is genuine with trust, go with that. As mentioned by other people though, do inform close friends and family of what you two do for extra safety reasons only. When I was his age, my job had high schoolers as well. I would goof around and make jokes with them all day at work. But that stops as soon as work ends. Let me tell you, it's 100% creepy to go out with a 16-year-old coworker alone. Friend or not, he knows it's creepy, and the fact that he keeps doing it despite the people around him seeing him as a predator is a giant red flag. Even if his intentions are completely pure, only a loser would not care about people seeing him as pedophile, because that's what everyone sees him as. I remember when I was 19 in college, I dated an 18-yo in high school. And even my friends were teasing me for robbing the cradle. If my 22-year-old friend was hanging out with a 16-year-old, I would tell him to stop before I cut him out of my life and report him. Grooming only works when the victim refuses to listen to everyone around them. Bad things can happen very quickly. Ask yourself, why is a 22-year-old guy hanging out with a 16-year-old child in high school instead of other adults like himself?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.